everyone. If you could take your seat, we'll get started. Just a little roadmap of what we're going to do this morning. It's probably familiar to most, if not everyone, in the room, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page. We are going to go through the adoption of regulations and catch limits for 2015. There will then be some business that we need to take care of as well around elections of officers and selection of future meeting dates, those kind of things. There will be room for public comment, and then we'll be closing out the meeting with some statements from commissioners. Before we start the formal business, though, I just had a few comments that I wanted to offer. Again, this year, I think that of the 91st meeting of the International Pacific Halibut Commission, each year that we come together, I'm impressed by the dialogue and the effort and work that all parties put into making this a successful endeavor for all. Both reports from the Conference Board and PAG were very helpful and informative, and I hope you'll see your thoughts and considerations reflected as we go through the formal part of today's meeting. I would also like to thank Hannah for the reception that they provided on Wednesday. By all accounts, everyone had a great time, and maybe some had too good of a time, I don't know, but is that even possible, really? So I think we are going to now start with the formal part of the day, and we'll, I guess, Bruce, bring up the first screen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item of business for you is adoption of catch limits for 2015. Each one of these catch limits represents a unique regulation, so you'll need to do these as one by one. The first one is for Area 2A. Blue line recommendation was 750,000 pounds from the Conference Board, and the Processors Advisory Group each recommended 960,000 pounds.
All right. Is there a motion to be made on that? Bob?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the number be 970,000 pounds in Area 2A.
All right. Is a seconder?
Second. Mr. Chairman, if I could speak to that?
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm looking at the Blue Book and the commercial CPUE numbers. Over the last 5 years, they've been slightly trending up. They're stable, and the survey, though it was down the last 5 years, shows stability there as well. This area is very tightly managed by the 3 states through the Pacific Fishery Management Council and 13 tribal Indian nations, all of which participate, and these fisheries, most of them last 2 to 5 days with probably 50, 60 port samplers, making sure that these numbers do not get exceeded. The trawl fishery has been significantly rationalized in that area, and so their numbers have actually come down from about 400,000 pounds to 50, 70,000 in their bycatch. The number here is 10,000 pounds higher than the, I believe, the PAG and the Conference Board, and we found out at the 11th hour and 59th minute that the blackcod fishery north of Chehalis would have been shorted if that wasn't added, so that's what accounts for the 10,000 pounds.
Thanks very much for that explanation, Bob. Are all in favor? Say aye. Aye. Passed unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next area is Area 2B, British Columbia. The blue line recommendation was 4.96 million pounds, and 7.038 million pounds came from both Conference Board and Processors Advisory Group.
Is there a motion for?
I move that the 2015 catch limit for 2B be set at 7.038 million pounds.
Do we have someone to second? Does anyone wish to anyone wish to speak to the motion?
I'd like to speak to the motion, Mr. Chairman. As I'm sure everybody who attended the conference board and the PAG heard, the 2B fishermen are seeing really robust stocks in that area. The metrics of the charter fishery are stable, slightly rising. The metrics of the commercial catch have been rising steeply for the last six years, to the point where we have the best catch rates since statistics have been kept over 100 years ago. And as you know, we have a very tight monitoring system in 2B, so we're very confident of what the boats are doing out there. This has led 2B to the conclusion that the stocks can sustain the level of harvest that we've recommended here. And it goes without saying, but I should say it anyway, that if those metrics start going the other way, we're going to be recommending that TAC go down, and go down in sharp response to any downtrends that become evident in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, David. All in favor of the motion? Aye. It's passed unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next area is Area 2C, Southeast Alaska. Blue line recommendation was 4.30. 5 million pounds recommended by the conference board and 5.3 million pounds recommended by the Processors Advisory Group.
Is there a motion being made for this? Bob?
Mr. Chairman, I would move a harvest level in 2C of 4,650,000 pounds.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Chairman, this area has one of the areas that all five areas that we look at from the survey had ups. And the weight per unit of effort overall was up 4%. Over 32-inch were up 2%. Total numbers were up 6%, and logbooks were up 17%. We looked at the request from both the PAG and the conference board, and this number comes out by giving half up on the conference board's request, making it 4.65.
Thank you, Bob. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. It's passed unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next area is Area 3A, the Central Gulf of Alaska, and a remarkable feat of 10.1 from the blue line, the conference board, and the Processors Advisory Group.
Yes, is there a motion to be made?
Mr. Chairman, I move for Area 3A, the catch limit be set at 10,100 pounds. 1,000 pounds, excuse me.
Thank you, Don.
10.1 million.
Thanks, Don. Is there a seconder for the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Is someone going to speak to the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy not to bring forward another reduction in this year for Area 3A. I have concerns about the stability of that stock. The weight per unit effort on the survey for 032 fish was down 2%. The number of fish over 32 fish was down 3%. So the 032 fish levels appear to be, if not declining, certainly stable, but the weight per unit effort overall of the survey was up 8%. So that tells me that there's still a significant weight at size issue, and I think that's that makes me feel comfortable with staying at the blue line level of 10.1 million.
Thank you, Don. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously, Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next area is Area 3B, the Western Gulf of Alaska. Blue line number was 2.46 million pounds. Conference board recommended 2.65 million pounds, and the Processor Advisory Group recommended 2.46 million pounds.
Someone want to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we set the quota for Area 3B for 2015 at 2.65 million pounds.
Is there a seconder for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you very much. Is someone going to speak to the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I know that this is a slight decline from last year's catch, and the blue line number was 2.46. This goes approximately halfway down. It is what the conference board recommended. We have a little concern over Area 3B and the commercial landing statistics with a decline in weight per unit effort, and that's reflected in this decline in catch from last year.
Thank you very much. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Passed unanimously. Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next area is Area 4A, the southeastern Bering Sea. Number from the blue line is 1.39 million pounds, also endorsed by the Conference Board and the Processors Advisory Group.
Is someone going to make a motion to this?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adopt the staff recommendation, also endorsed by the PAG and the Conference Board, of 1.39 million pounds.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Someone going to speak to the motion?
Mr. Chairman, not too much other than there was a number of robust positives of weight per unit up 22%, numbers up 37%. However, the last year we had sort of the inverse of those numbers, so I think we need to watch this area closely for next year and see if there's some stability and continued up. I'm comfortable with the recommendation of the staff, and I think that's it.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next area is Area 4B, the Western Bering Sea. The blue line number was 0.73 million pounds. Conference Board recommended 1.14 million pounds, and the Processors Advisory Group also recommended 1.14 million pounds.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we set the quota for Area 4B at 1.14 million pounds. This is, I'm sorry, that's the motion.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Do you wish to speak to the motion, Jim?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is one of the areas that showed some, according to the survey and our blue line numbers, is the largest reduction, so we're quite worried about this. We do know that the commercial weight per unit effort did not reflect the same as the survey. We often think that the survey is more reflective of the entire area because it's much broader, it covers the whole stock. So this is an area we're worried about. We'll be watching this for next year, but consistent with the Conference Board and the PAG, my motion sets it at 1.14.
Thank you, Jim. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next area is Area 4CDE, and you'll notice on your table on your screen that there are separate lines for 4CD, and that will depend on what you do with the catch sharing plan recommendation from the North Pacific Fishery Management Council. But for 4CDE as a unit, which is how the Commission considers that area, the blue line number was 520,000 pounds. Conference Board and Processors Advisory Group each recommended 1.285 million pounds.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the catch limit for Area 4C D&E at the status quo of 1.285 million pounds.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, to speak to this motion, my motion in Area 4C D&E provides a catch limit that is the same as last year. It recognizes the importance of the halibut fishery to a large number of fishery participants in remote Alaskan communities who have limited economic resources. Although this catch limit is substantially greater than the blue line, I feel that Area 4C D&E is a unique situation. Public testimony has indicated this amount of catch represents the minimum amount that 4C D&E fishermen and their coastal communities can catch and remain viable as a halibut port. This is also a concern that is expressed in both the Conference Board and the PAG. I'm mindful that there was also a conservation burden in 4C D&E and the directed halibut fishery that experienced a reduction in 2014 from 1.76 million to the status quo number of 1.285. It's almost 27% last year. The staff surveys have reported that there's an increase of weight per unit effort of almost 29% and fish per skate of up 15% in the satellite information, and the commercial weight per unit effort is up 7%. These improvements in abundance have been consumed within the bycatch requirements of other directed Bering Sea fisheries. However, recognizing the devastating impacts of excessive bycatch on Bering Sea communities and supporting equitable use of our halibut resources, 2 bycatch user groups have committed to a bycatch savings of 276 metric ton, which will result in a direct one-to-one addition to the directed fishery of a little over 350,000 pounds, which will bring the for CD and E fishery constant spoil yield to 0.8 million. So with the addition of that savings and the support of the committed support of the state of Alaska and NOAA Fisheries leadership to develop an equitable halibut PSC limits in the Bering Sea through the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council process, I feel comfortable with the amount of 1.285 million pound catch.
Thanks very much, Don, for that comprehensive explanation of the rationale. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion?
Mr. Chairman, if I could very briefly, this was sort of an unprecedented examination. My boss back in Washington, D.C. actually took interest in this, and that's not always a good thing. But in this case, we will say it was. There's some commitments from our headquarters office, and with that commitment to follow this and the interest, I'm grateful for the motion, and I will be in support of it when we vote.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I think that my support in this is significantly buoyed on the letter we got from the administrator of NOAA, and particularly the implementation of whatever action the North Pacific Council might take in their June meeting. Hopefully they make that decision on reduction in bycatch relief in the Bering Sea, having that implementation for 2016. That's a real important and I think a real positive development from our nation's capital. So those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Bob. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'd offer a few comments as well on this particular item, and some of the thinking within Canada is that there was also the understanding is that there will be bycatch monitoring within this fleet. They have observers on board their vessels, and that we would be receiving a report in the postseason to track what the bycatch harvest bycatch was and the bycatch mortality. We look forward to seeing that report in the future and seeing what the outcome was as far as the efforts that the trawl fleet has made to reduce the bycatch. I'll speak some more probably in closing remarks in a more general sense around bycatch, but I think that there has been a lot of discussion among the commissioners about this particular issue, and we'll call for a vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to get the numbers in there, 29,223. Next item for your consideration are commercial fishing period season dates. This will be divided into two parts. The first part is the Area 2A non-treaty fishery, which is still the only remaining derby fishery on the coast, so it's structured as a series of 10-hour openings until the catch limit is achieved. You'll see a series of dates on the screen in front of you. Those have been agreed upon by the Halibut Managers Group in Area 2A. So those are put forward for your recommendations.
Thank you, Bruce. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the season opening and closing dates for Area 2A as displayed.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Does anyone wish to speak on this? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Passes unanimously, Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The remaining areas are for the treating incidental fishery in Area 2A and the quota share fisheries in Area 2B and 2C through 4C, D, and E. There are 3 different sets of recommendations here. Staff recommendation was from March 15th through November the 7th. Conference Board recommended March 14th through November the 15th, and the Processors Advisory Group recommended the 21st of March through the 31st of October 2015.
Is someone going to make a motion on
I'd like to move that the for areas 2A, 2B, 2C, 3A, 3B, and 4A through E, that fishing will commence on March 14th and end on November 7th.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item are a series of items.
Sorry,
I'm
Bruce,
sorry.
just before we go on, I was going to ask, does anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next items are a series of elements of catch sharing plans in various areas. The allocative bodies of the contracting parties utilize the machinery of the Commission's regulatory structure to implement some of these things, so we'll be presenting these for your adoption. The first one is the Pacific Fishery Management Council catch sharing plan for Area 2A, as listed on the screen.
Thank you. Is someone going to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to accept the Pacific Fishery Management Plan for Area 2A as displayed on the screen.
I will second that motion. Does anyone wish to speak to it?
I think that, Mr. Chairman, that the Pacific Fishery Management Council goes through a very deliberative public process in developing this, and I think that the recommendation to us is good enough.
All in favor of the motion? Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next allocative structure is for the North Pacific Fishery Management Council for Area 4C, D, and E, as displayed on the screen.
Thank you, Bruce. Is someone going to make a motion to this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I move that we adopt the North Pacific Fisheries Management catch sharing plan for Area 4C, D, and E as displayed.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would just say that the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council's catch sharing plan is a very public, deliberate process, and with much input to come up with this share. So, and I would support their work.
Thank you, Don. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is the combined 2B commercial sport allocation for British Columbia.
Do we have someone to make a motion to this proposal?
I move that we accept the combined 2B commercial sport catch limit.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Anyone wish to speak to the motion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item concerns the North Pacific Fishery Management Council catch sharing plan for areas 2C and 3A, and this is in two sets of things. One is the acceptance of the plan, and the second one is the actual management measures to do it. So the first part is an acceptance of the North Pacific Fishery Management Council's catch sharing plan for areas 2C and 3A.
Is someone going to make a motion to the proposal?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the North Pacific Fishery Management Council's catch share plan for Area 2C, which will define the charter boat opportunities.
I will second that motion. Anyone wish to speak to it?
Well, Mr. Chairman, since, as our Executive Director pointed out, we're going to have a subsequent motion that says what the effect is, I'll hold off my comment until that motion.
All right. So is there someone going to speak to the motion?
That was my speech towards that motion.
That was it?
Yeah. We are going to talk about it a little bit more, but that's a subsequent motion.
Okay. And I think, Bruce, you already went over the second one.
I did, Mr. Chair. You may adopt these as a unit or do them serially, depending on your choice.
So what would you prefer, Jim, to adopt them as a unit?
I think that would work. In that case, my motion would be changed to say I move that we adopt the North Pacific Fishery Management Council's catch share plans for both areas 2C and area 3A, which will define the charter opportunities in those areas. And note that with the adoption of the catch limits for 2C, which was slightly more than the blue line, that will allow, by the council's plan, the rule to be one fish daily bag limit in area 2C less than or equal to 42 inches or greater than or equal to 80 inches. And in 3A, that will allow a two fish daily bag limit with a maximum size limit on the second fish of 29 inches, with each vessel in 3A limited to one charter trip per calendar day, with a Thursday closure from June 15th to August 31st, and a 5-fish annual limit. And that would be the package of the four things that describe the catch share plans for the charter fisheries in 2C and 3A.
Thanks very much for going through all that, Jim. That was very clear. Is there, do we need to go through the motions again, Bruce? Or
Mr. Chair, just from a procedural thing, if we could first adopt the catch sharing plans themselves, and then we might deal with the individual measures, which Dr. Balser has described so well.
All right. All in favor of adopting the catch share plan?
Aye.
Aye. And on the second piece, as far as the changes to the regulations, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Both passed unanimously, Bruce. That was a complicated one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm next going to ask Heather Gilroy to go through some of the other items on your elements.
Mr. Chair, the other regulatory proposals are from NIMS, and IPHC staff agree with them, and the Conference Board and PAG do as well. The first one, I'll do them individually because they're each individual regs. The first one would be for IPHC to remove from their regulations that a carcass needs to be on board a charter boat if they fillet the fish. The regulation will be in NIMS regulations, so they don't need to be in both, and so there's support from all boards and the staffs.
Thank you, Heather. Is someone going to make a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Is there a seconder?
Oh, wait. I haven't made the motion yet.
Pardon me?
I haven't made the motion yet.
Oh,
I'll make the motion.
I'm so much ahead of myself. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I move in area 2C and 3A regulations for sport charter fisheries that we remove from our regulations, IPHC regulations, the regulation that provides that if filleted, entire carcasses with head and tail on board until offloaded, the purpose being that it exists in National Marine Fishery Service regulations.
Thanks, Don. Is there a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Anyone wish to speak?
I would. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, well, for administrative purposes, it's probably that it's proper to remove it from IPHC regulations. I think that it's important to bookmark in the IPHC regulation booklet that this regulation exists so that there's not confusion in the sport charter industry, so that all the regulations are explained in one source. So with that comment, I'll support this motion.
All in favor of the motion? Aye. Passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next one is to change the sport guide definition. The goal will be to match the NIMS sport guide information, which also mirrors ADF and G sport guide definition. And in this case, the change would be that the guide is not required to be aboard the vessel. And there's support from both boards and IPHC staff.
Thank you, Heather. Is someone going to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move the change to the guided sports definition, so the guide is not required on the vessel.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the goal of this is to match the National Marine Fisheries Service regulations, as Heather indicated, and it was supported by the PAG and the conference board and staff.
Thank you, Bob. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Passes unanimously. Bruce?
Mr. Chair, the next one is to make the guide responsible for anglers' violation of the regulations, even if the guide is not on the same vessel as the angler. And again, this is to mirror NIMS regulations. It's supported by staff and both boards.
Thank you. Is someone going to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that IPHC regulations include the regulation that chartered guide responsible for violations of regulations of their anglers, whether they're on the same vessel or not.
Thank you, Don. Is there a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Do you wish to speak to it? Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Passes unanimously.
The last recommendation relative to 2C and 3A charter fisheries is that the halibut remain on, if an angler catches a halibut, it remain on the vessel till the end of the fishing trip, again supported by staff and both boards.
Does someone want to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that all retained halibut by angler remain on the vessel which they were caught until the end of the fishing trip.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would just note that the staff, conference board, and PAG all agree on this.
Thank you, Bob. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Bruce?
Mr. Chair, this recommendation is from staff in Area 2A managers that we add California Fish and Wildlife as an authorized officer. This allows them to enforce IPHC regulations. And all staff and agencies and the boards agree.
Thank you, Heather. Is there a motion to be made?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move we add California Fish and Wildlife officers as IPHC authorized enforcement officers.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next thing I'll go through is the proposals you received from the industry. The first one was a recommendation of a maximum size limit for both the sport and commercial fisheries. They didn't give an actual size. They suggested the staff determine that. And there was not support from the different boards.
Thank you very much, Heather. So on the first one here, we've, as a commission, have referred that to the MSAB, and we will be providing direction on what we'd like to see undertaken around that particular request. Similarly to the next one, required retention of first fish caught of 29 inches or less in Area 3A sport fish, and the third one, a size limit of 30 inches for the commercial fishery. They all fall into a similar category. And we had quite a discussion around size limits at this particular meeting. There was a request from commissioners to explore changing size limit in the commercial fishery from 32 to 30. There was a staff presentation around that particular request from the commission. And I think the conclusion was that there be further efforts by the staff to better determine the impacts before any further actions would be taken. So they've been referred to the MSAB for further exploration. Does anyone else wish to speak to those?
I would just add to that the second one at the interim meeting, you did ask the staff to forward that to the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council, which was done, and during their deliberations they did discuss that.
Thanks very much, Heather.
And the only last one is that the last two proposals we received were just comments on the sport fishery. There weren't actual regulation proposals, but they provided comments on both the 3A and 2C charter fisheries.
Thank you. Does anyone on the commission wish to speak to either of those two proposals? Don?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to speak to the size limit of 30 inches. I appreciate industry bringing this subject matter forward, and I think it is an issue that we need to continue to consider. In my report for Area 3A, our surveys and indicate that there's a significant population of fish that are undersized, under 32 inches, and it may be some time before that situation changes. So I think this is an appropriate subject to continue to review and refer to the MSAB and consider the implications to our industry and to our user groups.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is more of a housekeeping item. It's concerning the Conference Board Rules of Procedure, which the Conference Board reviewed and adopted and forwarded to you for your approval at this meeting in one of your public administration sessions yesterday. You did approve that, and this is just simply for housekeeping here so that we know it's been done. The next item is a series of items concerning bycatch mortality. You had extensive discussions about these individual items on here, and we put these forward because they were motions put forward by your two advisory bodies upon which you had some deliberations yesterday, Mr. Chair.
Thanks very much, Bruce. I just offer a few more comments, but before I do, maybe I'll see if anyone else wants to speak to these particular motions that came from the advisory bodies. Well, maybe I'll start, and as I said at the start when we were looking at the catch limits around 4C, D, and E, one piece that I didn't mention, we did have presentations from representatives from the Alaskan Seafood Cooperative around efforts that they were going to undertake to reduce their bycatch. We also had presentations from other representatives from the trout fishery from the Bering Sea. And as I mentioned earlier, some of our thinking around that was that there would be a report at the end of the season of the impacts of the efforts that they undertook to reduce bycatch. I do see this as just one step in the overall development of a more comprehensive plan. I do look forward to the meeting that we're going to have on February the 1st with the Council, and we'll have some more discussion around efforts that will be undertaken to reduce the impacts of bycatch. And work with the Council going forward on how we can work cooperatively, develop that package, and for the benefit of all fisheries. I'll see if anyone else has any further comments. Don?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was an important subject to bring to this annual meeting. I appreciate the thought and the dialogue that the conference board considered this measures. We saw from the conference board vote and the PAG vote support of the status quo in Area 4C, D, and E, and I see that as a reflection of the industry and the importance of pushing this issue forward. The bycatch levels in the Bering Sea have impacted those communities and the rest of the halibut users throughout the state for many years. We've seen indications of reduced abundance, reduced catches through 3A, 3B, and also the Bering Sea. So I appreciate their work on that, and it made it much easier for us to support the status quo with the commitments from the state and NOAA leadership that that the equitable Bering Sea bycatch and halibut use would be addressed. I would note that it appears that this upcoming meeting and the catch level in 4C, D, and E is somewhat of a stopgap measure, and that it is not the end of the process. We need to continue to work with the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council to find areas that are equitable in bycatch relief, and I look forward to doing that.
Thanks very much, Don. Anyone else? Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the record, that joint meeting with the council will be a public meeting, but it's February 5, I believe. And you may have said the wrong day.
Oh, did I say the 5th?
I don't think you said the 5th, but I could be wrong, but it is the 5th. Thanks.
All right. It definitely is February the 5th. Does anyone else wish to speak? Dave?
I'd just like to draw everybody's attention to the bycatch motion made in the conference board earlier this week that describes very well a number of the aspects of this seemingly intractable problem of bycatch in the Bering Sea, and the reasons that we should take action on it and pay close attention, and in particular from a 2B perspective, recent work by the IPHC staff, I think there's a paper in the Ryall by Ray Webster, has shown that juveniles from the Bering Sea migrate very extensively, that populate all areas of the coast right down to the southernmost part of the range of this species. And so everybody has a vital interest in getting bycatch in the Bering Sea down to the lowest level that's practicable, as it says in the Magnuson-Stevens Act. So thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Does anyone else wish to speak to this particular item? Good.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next items for your consideration are your next series of public meetings. The first is the location and date of the 2015 interim meeting. Staff is recommending Seattle, Washington, but no dates have been decided.
Do we need a motion on that for the dates, Bruce?
I'm sorry?
Do we need a motion for dates?
Yes, you do, Mr. Chair.
Does anyone wish to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we schedule the 2015 interim meeting to take place in Seattle, Washington on December 1st and 2nd of 2015.
Do we have a seconder for that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ted. All in favor? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next one is just an announcement. You approved this last year as the location and date of the 2016 annual meeting. It'll be in Juneau, Alaska from January 25th through 29th of 2016. The next item is location date of the 2017 annual meeting.
Thanks, and we need a motion on that as well. Can I do that as a chair, Bruce? Is that appropriate? I'm not sure.
No, you can't.
Ask me to go.
Temporarily relinquishing chairmanship. So I make a motion that the meeting be held in Victoria January 23rd through the 27th, 2017.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
I return the gavel to the chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next items are your annual trip to the Octagon, where you guys duke it out as to who's going to be chair and vice chair for the next session of things.
Well, luckily that we've maybe worked that out, but we'll see how that goes. So, is there anyone to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move for 2015-16, Dr. Balsiger would serve as chair.
Do we have a seconder?
Second that motion.
Anyone wish to speak to the motion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
It's passed unanimously.
Next one, Mr. Chair, is for the vice chair for 2015-16.
I would move Paul Ryall be the vice chair for that time period.
Second.
Anyone wish to speak to the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The last item on here is we ask your leave to make any corrections for minor administrative regulation wording that may have crept into some of the decisions here.
So thank you, Bruce. Does anyone wish to speak to that?
Do we need a motion? I'd so move. No? Okay.
So, yes, please proceed, Bruce.
Thank you. That concludes the items for your decisions points, Mr. Chair.
All right. As I said at the opening of today's session, that we provide time for public comment, and that time is now. Does anyone wish to have a public comment on any of the business that we have transacted at the 91st meeting of the International Pacific Halibut Commission?
Yes, I would like to thank the commissioners for ensuring that everybody had their opportunity to speak. It was truly a fully inclusive process. And you went out of your way to do that. And I thank you for that. The other thing that I'd like to say is that as fishermen, we're, I guess a way to describe us is we're jack of all trades. We demonstrate that by having fishermen as commissioners, a lot of other different places. But the skill level that we excel at best is our ability as a group to harvest our fish in the guidelines which we are given and the opportunities that we are presented with on an individual basis. And for the opportunities that are provided to us, we are thankful.
Thank you very much for those comments. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Good morning. My name is Russ Sebeck, and I'm the Fisheries Director for the Makah Tribe. First of all, I'd like to thank Bruce Lehman and his staff for all the hard work that they have done. Certainly, I can see things are changing, and there is a sense of clarity in the room, and I'd like to thank Dr. Ian Stewart for that. He gives some wonderful presentations, and it's nice to hear that we do have a lot of work to do relative to the science to better understand this resource, and we're with you on that. And the Makah Tribe would like to help out and participate in any way to better understand the resource, not only in Area 2A, but throughout coastwide. I'd also like to thank the PEG and the Conference Board for the work that they've done and their recognition of Indigenous people. This resource is vital to those communities, but it's also vital to our culture and our traditions. So I'd like to thank you for that. And most of all, I'd like to thank the commissioners for having to look at all the work that's presented to you and coming up with a decision that I think not only supports the resource, but also supports the social and economic needs of the communities throughout. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind comments. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the Commission? No? Okay, thank you again. So I think, Bruce, we're on to the last piece of today's meeting, which is our closing comments, and the first opportunity goes to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is, as all of you probably understand, this is an enormous amount of work that goes into this process that we do every year. And just first of all, a personal comment of thanks to both Paul and Jim for working with myself and the staff through the year. Paul and Jim and I have bi-monthly conference calls where we review our action lists that come out of various meetings, and I appreciate very much the leadership that you two folks provide to myself and the staff. Secondly, I'd like to thank our partner agencies that we work with. This is both state and federal, tribes, First Nations, recreational and commercial throughout the region in there. This is very much a shared endeavor. We couldn't do this without the work that you folks do and the things that you share with us. The industry cooperation is absolutely critical. We wouldn't be anywhere if we didn't have the cooperation between the sport and commercial industries that provide the information upon which we make a lot of our decisions. That's critical information to us. I want to recognize last and actually most importantly is the contributions from our staff. You see a lot of the presentations that are presented to you, the folks who get up in front of the microphones, but there's an enormous effort by all the people behind the staff, from everything from collecting information in the ports through the processing of the data up through the age reading and so forth. All those things go into the kinds of documentation that we put before the commissioners and yourselves for your consideration at the annual meeting, and I want to recognize the contribution of the staff. It's quite amazing. And then lastly, just kind of a personal thanks from me to the folks that I encounter when I travel up and down the coast here in various ports. I'm always treated with courtesy and respect, and oftentimes we have our feet held to the fire, and that's a really important thing that happens for us when we get out into the field. I think it's important that you get a chance to sort of talk to us and make sure that we're listening to you and that we're understanding the things that you're trying to say to us. So that's a very personal thanks from me to the folks that I encounter throughout this industry. Mr. Chairman, thanks.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few short comments. I appreciate that from the U.S. delegation. Bruce thanked the staff last. I'd thank them first. So there's a lot of work that goes on in that group. A lot of it is over what most of us think are our holidays, and so I hope they get holidays in March or April or something like that, because they don't at the end of the year. The work that we see here, and we all have it on these new diligent board books. There's something like 3,800 pages of material that's on there. But that's actually not all they do all year long, because particularly the analysts at a hint or a suggestion will produce numerous other looks at things, numerous other documents that actually never get into the book. So it's a great staff. Appreciate what they've done. Thanks to the Canadian commissioners. As always, they're a great group to work with. We had a good time in our meetings. Not very many closed sessions anymore, as you know, except when we talk about budgets, but we get along well, and I think that was very productive. Thanks to the PAG, the conference board. I'm not quite sure how you organize to get roll call votes from 80 or 100 people, so the fact that that actually happened is amazing to me, so thanks for that hard work. I know it's not easy to turn that around. Thanks to the staff from ADF&G, Washington, Oregon, and the NIMS staff. Did a lot of work and support for us at this meeting. Thanks for the receptions. That was good with the revolving tower up there, which I didn't realize why I was unable to find my way out of the hotel until someone said, well, it's gone, it's circling. So, So thanks to Vancouver, it's a great city to visit. So next year, we're looking forward to having you come to Juneau, and I only mention that here because we don't have like 100 world-class restaurants in Juneau, and we don't have a lot of hotel rooms. So if you're intending to go, book a room as soon as you see. I know this is a long time off, but don't wait until January 15th to try to find a place to stay, or else you'll be in my attic probably. And finally, although I think most of these people aren't here, I found it, I think refreshing is the right word, but it's certainly a change in direction that we had other sectors than the directed halibut users in the room. I think it's the only way we could make progress on what has been the major issue, the major point of contention between Canada and the U.S. up here. It is the other users of halibut that have not been in the room before. They were here full force. I think that's a great step forward. It's a refreshing new wind from the south. I'm pleased they were here, and I look forward to that continued participation. Again, thanks to everyone.
Thanks very much, Jim. You covered many of the same topics that I was going to speak to. Probably won't go back over all of them, repeat myself, or repeat your comments, but there are a couple of things I'd like to say too. First off, as you started out, you said the amount of organization that goes into developing these meetings and the staff efforts to get us commissioners up to speed is extraordinary. It is a lot of effort to plan and organize these meetings, as well as do the stock assessments that we've heard from Ian and Steve and others. That makes us all more informed about what's going on with the halibut biomass out in that ocean and all the challenges of trying to figure out where it might be going. It's very interesting, the advisory process that we have within the Halibut Commission with the Conference Board and PAG. I come to the meeting informed, but I'm even more informed by the whole process. And so it's with an open mind to come here without everything preconceived and develop the plan as we go forward. So it's a lot of things to do in 4.5 days, but once again, we've come to a conclusion and have a plan for another year. I would say as well that we've been working on the longer-term plan too over the last number of years. The longer-term plan covers many aspects of figuring out not just the stock assessment, total mortality accounting framework, and bycatch and management strategy evaluation, and we've also modified the process over the last couple of years. We have put in place a scientific review board. We have a management strategy evaluation board. We have opened up the process, as Jim spoke about, that there's very few closed sessions with the exception of ones dealing with some finance and administration. But I think all those changes have improved the process so that people have an opportunity to see what the commissioners speak and deliberate about. I must admit for myself, it was a little bit of a change. It's not that it's having some of the discussions, and it's a little bit of a change, but it's not uncomfortable. In fact, I welcome it. I think it makes for a better process and a better outcome. So with that, I also look forward, and I did say this earlier, about the meeting that we're going to have on February the 5th. With the North Pacific Fishery Management Council. I think that is a step forward as well. Not that we had not had meetings in the past, but the topics that we're going to have on February the 5th around bycatch are ones that we've talked about for a number of years, and so have the council, and I think jointly that we'll come up with a good outcome. So with that, I would close the 91st meeting of the International Pacific Halibut Commission and wish you all the best in your travels home. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Well done.